I know you don't want to get away from this line of questioning on Vermont Yankee, but given the Supreme Court case and given the ambiguity around Vermont's campaign finance laws, anything need to be done in the legislature in terms of campaign finance?
Well, I don't think the Supreme Court decision has any impact on that. It affects federal races. It doesn't affect our state law in the sense that we have corporate contributions allowed as about half the states do. They make independent expenditures now, so I don't think it affects it really. I've said previously that I'd rather have a statute than not, but I'm also sensitive to the concern that is getting into an election year now, and if there are any changes from the current status, that might be problematic for candidates. So maybe the tradition of not making changes in election laws during the election year is one that's worth respecting.
So you don't think that the Citizens United case will have any effect in Vermont?
Well, obviously, the federal races are mine, right? But our state law is really not affected by it.
Do you think it was a good decision?
I believe in the First Amendment. I assume you folks do.
I mean, I think corporations are people.
Well, in statutory terms, they are defined as persons.
So would it be fair to say you support the court decision?
Well, I don't support or oppose it, but the Supreme Court is the final arbiter of constitutional interpretations, and they've indicated that it's constitutional to allow corporations to make these expenditures.
What about the disclosure component? I know that's still an issue that's being fought in court in terms of Vermont's disclosure. Do you support current? Would you like to see different disclosure laws in Vermont in terms of, especially on the independent expenditures, so that entities have to disclose who they are and who they give their money to?
I've always said that transparency in elections, disclosure of contributions and expenditures is, in the long run, more important than limitations, because Vermonters and all Americans, I think, ought to have the opportunity to see who is supporting or opposing candidates or issues that are on the ballot, and then they can make up their mind based on the information that's available to them.
So you think that the challenge to Vermont's disclosure laws is in the state, the court challenge that would eliminate effectively disclosure requirements?
Well, I'll let the constitutional arbiters ultimately make that decision, but I believe in maximum disclosure.
Well, you're Secretary of State, so I assume you would have had a stance on disclosure.
Well, as I say, I was in favor of more rather than less. In fact, some elections, I and other candidates disclosed contributors below the threshold, for example. I think it's always good to do more than less.
Would that extend to corporate independent expenditures as well?
I think so.
So that might be a law that you would not object to in the legislature.
The reason I'm being uncertain, Louis, is I think it is a good practice not to tamper with election laws when the campaign is already underway, and ours seems to be. So if this issue were brought up, I guess I'd have trouble believing that the legislature would confine itself to one narrow topic, and we might be into a lot of areas that would make more significant changes. So
I'm curious, something you just said. What makes you think there's a campaign underway?
How do you spell that?